Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host. Let's get into this. So, hi guys. I hope all is well. Finally, no alien talk, no periodic table. You already know the creator came through with the message, right? Look, this sleepwalking segment has been dawning on me for a little over a week, okay? So I got the download. I heard like sleepwalking, right? In my spirit. And then I'm getting like these little nudges to start researching sleepwalking. And I'm not even going to be like, I'm not going to lie. I don't even have all my notes that I researched for. So I'm not sure. I need to take that back to the creator and find out if I am going to be, I don't know, if I need to do a part 2 to this or if I'm going to just be going over what I have in front of me. But I felt this really strong resistance to this message, and the creator was like, have it recorded by Friday. Initially, I thought he was just saying like sleepwalking, like people that, you know, are like asleep, right? Like the people that are not ascending, the people that are not spiritually aware or conscious, right? I'm thinking that's what he was saying at first. But then he's like, no, literally sleepwalking, right? So I started doing my research. Number one, it's been around for ages, right? Around the 19th century, this is when a diagnosis and research, different investigations started to begin because it started to become a little more known and prevalent, right? The only thing that they've come up with so far, which I find is so crazy, is that it's related to genetics. Like how odd could something like sleepwalking be, right? It mainly affects children. Not many adults. It's really rare for adults to sleepwalk, right? Then there are actual spiritual groups that do scientific research. One of them is called Spiritual Science Research Foundation. There are several groups. You would just have to look them up, right? But I just found this particular report to be very interesting. So, it's just a lot of spiritual research and science, right? That consists of scientific, physical, and sorry for the background noise, but it goes into the scientific, physical, and psychological aspects of, you know, this overall sleepwalking phenomenon, right? So they found it to be comprised of 60% spiritual, 30% of sleepwalking is psychological, and 10% is physical, which I find to be even more interesting. So some of the research that I was doing, obviously, is some people are not aware. Like they're aware that they're awake and they're sleepwalking, but they're not aware. And we all know, right, it's been this like popular saying or just popular or common knowledge to not awake a person from their slumber when they're sleepwalking, right? Some people even have like their eyes open. So now with it being genetic, it could mean like that it's connected to the spiritual realm, mainly your ancestors, right? That was the first thing that I thought of when they said that the main thing that they could come up with when they started doing this spiritual investigation is that it's linked to genetics, right? If a parent sleepwalks, it's a 90% chance that their child would too be a sleepwalker. So I find that so crazy. And like I said, I don't even have all my notes in front of me. But what some other things that have come up, which I find is odd, is that people have been cleaning, switching lights on and off, driving, urinating, sexomnia, and even committing murder, you guys, all while under or just being asleep. Now, which I found to be interesting is that sleepwalking is like one big umbrella, okay? There are tons of different types of sleepwalking, and talking in your sleep is considered like a subset of sleepwalking. It's a lot of different things, like moving parts that are connected to it. And like I said, that's why I was saying I'm not sure if the creator wanted me to use the notes that I came up with for my own personal knowledge, or if he wanted me to record it. So obviously when he told me to record it by today, and these are the notes that I have, I'm sure that this is what he wanted to go over for this particular segment. And if he instructs me to do a part 2 or go deeper into this, then I will. But like I said, with all of the research that they've been doing, the stage and the quality that a sleep is getting is also important for, the onset of a sleepwalking event. So, of course, we know the stages of REM, right? This is like the psychology part coming in. Because, here we go over everything, right? Scientific, spiritual, psychology, astrology. If it can be related back to the spiritual realm, then we will cover it if the creator wants us to pay attention to that, right? So, the REM stages, REM, right? Rapid eye movement is what the acronym stands for. It is basically the movement of your eyes, which is connected to the patterns of the wavelengths that are going on in your brain whilst you are sleeping, right? So this is like psychology 101, all right? Literally, it's like psychology. It's like one of the first things you learn in psychology, right? But it is important it's connected, and it is what is dependent on the sleepwalking episode, as well as the quality of your sleep. So if you're like in a cold room, they say it makes you sleep better. So if the room is hot, right? If you're uncomfortable, if the bed sheets are dirty, if it's loud in, the room where you are, like if the TV is on, if you snore, if you're sleeping with the person that snores, a lot of different things, right, are factors which can trigger you in and out of the sleepwalking. So, like I said, initially, I thought the creator was telling me to, look at people that are sleepwalking. But then he was like, no, actually do the research. So, while I'm doing the research, I'm coming across a lot of different information. And a lot of the things I feel like it's just really lengthy to kind of read and go over. But there are tons of stories out there where people have done a lot of crazy things while they're sleepwalking. And because it's so heavily connected to, genetics, as far as research is showing, so far, and then how it is said to be 60% of a spiritual event. This appears to be some spiritual corridor. And because people can do things like have sex and commit murder and even drive while experiencing this sleepwalking episode, I think it's something that deserves a little more of, attention. I think this can be something that will give us a lot of different ideas and new perspectives on how to observe and interpret possession, right? Like being possessed, shape-shifting, different things that can occur because remember, you're asleep. So a part of your guard is down. Even if you are awake and aware while you're sleeping, sleepwalking is one of those things that you're not physically control over. Remember, even this research is pointing towards that. It is stating that it is 10% physical. So your body is not even realizing that you're awake, right? And then there's other things like drugs and medicine, anxiety and stress, just a lot of different things that go into the scientific aspect of it, right? Like a lot of scientists believe, okay, they believe research is not really showing anything, which is another telltale sign that it's mainly spiritual, because science can't necessarily explain it. We don't really have a physical explanation for it, right? But scientists believe that the limbic region of the brain, which is connected to your raw emotion and your motor skills, it remains awake, right? Like while you're under this different, episode. It's a lot of different aspects that I would say people would view this through. But in all seriousness, if you gain the understanding of what sleepwalking is from a scientific level, like if you do your own research and you really look at what sleepwalking is considered, and then you pair that with maybe some surahs up from the Quran or some scriptures out of the Bible, and then you compare that to everyday life as well as what you know about spirituality, it'll really open your mind, because there are some things that I did come across that I'm not going to share because of how sensitive of a topic it is, and also because of how alarming it is. I mean, I think even I don't think it's like not known. I think it's common knowledge that people have committed murder while they have been sleepwalking. I'm sure there are some cases out there that you can look up, and that would actually be really hard to fight in court. I mean, how do you even scan a person's brain while they are sleepwalking? How you see what I'm saying? Like, how do you do that? So in reality, we have this understanding of, spirituality, but to me, it looks like sleepwalking might be one of those things that is allowing the spiritual world to start creeping over into the physical. And these are actual physical events that's kind of mixing the physical with the spiritual realms. If a person is sleepwalking, and even if they are slightly awake, that they are sleepwalking, right? But their body is not in control of them waking up, and the person who's next to them is not supposed to wake them up, this can very well be a spirit acting out. And this is one of the ways a child or an adult, and I mean mainly it's children, because it's mainly kids that sleepwalk, right? It's rare for adults to sleepwalk. So if a person is sleepwalking, this is kind of like a portal or an avenue that a spirit can take. Remember, people have been murdered by sleepwalkers. So this can very well be a spirit taking form, physical form of a person that is vulnerable. We're all vulnerable when we're sleeping. So a sleeping child is much more vulnerable than a sleeping adult, right? In the physical as well as in the spiritual realm. So, yeah, I think if you do your own research on sleepwalking and you find out how big of an umbrella it actually is, and how it's so much more common amongst children, then you will understand why this is such a spiritual thing. And it's really useful, in my opinion, based on my spiritual research and my common knowledge and my own personal experience. It is definitely one of those things that will assist you with understanding, like I said, shape-shifting and different things that are in that, realm. But I'm going to end it here. I do love y'all. I hope y'all are going to enjoy y'all weekend. I hope you are drinking your water, eating your fruit and vegetables, and sipping on your own tea, because it's free. All right, love y'all. Peace.